you for being with us this first Saturday in the month of April. Nigeria's low infrastructure stock is most manifest in transport, especially roads and bridges, which impedes not only the real estate development, but also growth and progress in trade and commerce. Total length of roads in the country, according to Adedamola Kuti, an engineer and former Federal Controller of Works in Lagos, is about 200,000 kilometers, out of which 34,000 kilometers belong to the federal government. The rest are owned by the state and local governments at 16% and 66%, respectively. The condition of these federal roads, which are mostly highways that connect states and regions, is so poor that only about 35% of the network is motorable. And that is deplorable.
I remember a revelation by the former Minister of Works, Mr. Fashola, that Nigeria needs to invest about 10 billion or 30 billion, he said, naira every year across...
For the next how many years?
About a decade.
To be able to...
If memory serves me right, you know, to be able to close the infrastructure gap. And don't also forget, well, thankfully we are only focusing on roads and bridges this time around.
And houses.
Well, can we really talk about houses?
Well, if we have time, we'll go there as well.
Okay.
Well, to talk about all this with us this morning is Professor Yemi Oke, Senior Advocate of Nigeria, who's joining us from Leeds in the UK. Good morning, Professor. Long time no see. As well as Mr. Patrick Adenusi, Director, Safety Beyond Borders, who joins us from Lekki. Mr. Adenusi.
Thank you.
Good to see you. I'm sure you have plenty to, you would have had plenty to say about Wednesday, but that's not what we're talking about.
Good morning.
Let me start with you, Professor.
Thank you. Good morning.
Good morning.
Good to see you again.
Now, in which areas do you see this deficit most?
Well, the starting point is to realize that infrastructure gap is one that will keep closing and readjusting. It's not only in Nigeria, you have it all over the world. Once you have infrastructure out there, you keep maintaining those infrastructure, expanding it, restructuring it, and because of the limitation in terms of the national asset or federal asset, so to speak, there's no way that no country has enough to take care of its infrastructure. So what experts have advocated is a collaboration of the state and the private sector. And that brought about the ICRC that we have in Nigeria, that's Nigeria Infrastructure Concession and Regulatory Commission. That was a take-home lesson from the experimented similar transaction in Lagos with of course, I hate to talk about it, the Lekki toll gate that was given to a private sector in Lagos, which was supposed to be a private-public arrangement until we had that ugly incident. So what happens is that over time, once we have bridges and infrastructure, their lifespan maximum 30, 40 years, and a government must make appropriate budget to adjust and address infrastructure decay and bring on board new ones as population keeps expanding. That's the trend. There's no government that has enough to fix all the infrastructure. What you said in the case of Fashola, it was talking about billions of dollars, not billions of naira, which would now mean like Nigeria would have to spend trillions of naira to fix our infrastructure annually. Of course, we can see what is happening at the level of the federal government with new Lagos, Calabar, and other, and Badagry, Sokoto, Axis, and so many other stuff coming on board, the rail system and the rest. Those are the kind of infrastructure that we always advocate. But then no government has enough to dip his hand in his pocket and fund those kind of humongous projects from his budget. So the way to go is public-private partnership. With the thing we have appropriate regulatory framework in place in Nigeria. And other states are also replicating it. And that's the way to go. So it's a challenge that's not peculiar to Nigeria, so to speak.
It's not peculiar, but in some climes, it is not so obvious. But here, you will admit, and talking about what Mr. Fashola said, it was actually $2.3 trillion over a space of about 2 decades to get our infrastructure up to scratch. That means to get it up to a tolerable level so that people don't suffer. I mean, going from Lagos to Benin, for instance, I mean, it's a nightmare. It's taking people like 6, 7, 8 hours to get from Lagos to Benin, whereas when that road was first done, it used to take exactly 3 hours, door to door, if you were going to Benin.
Alero, I think we not deploying appropriate strategies to an extent. I will tell you, I'm sure you are widely traveled too. Countries are taking measures deliberately to take cars off the road. And I heard when you guys talk about the speed limit in Lagos, maybe it was a deliberate policy measure to discourage people from putting cars on the road. You know, when you put cars and all these articulated vehicles on the roads, you know, you're going to be spending from time to time to maintain the roads. All over the world, countries are devising strategies to take cars off the road so that they spend less on road expansion and maintenance. They can now concentrate on rail and water transportation. So there are so many strategies that people deploy to reduce the level of stress or stresses on infrastructure. And again, in Nigeria, is such a system that we tend to look in the direction of the federal government for everything. If all the states are up and doing in terms of what they ought to do, particularly in infrastructure, attracting private sector to partner with them, a state like Oyo, Ogun, Kaduna, Borno, Kebbi will have fixed their roads, meaning interstate roads. Then we'll not talk of federal government road, and even some states are taking on board federal road projects only to ask for refund later. Some the Dangotes are doing social responsibility swaps, meaning the money I have to pay to federal government in terms of tax, I can use it to do some kilometers of road. And those are the kind of things that ought to have been in place for several decades. And gladly they are happening now. What we advocate is for states to be up and doing, and state government to also be up and doing. You know, let me flash back to the days of, let me make this example. During the time of one governor that we always still reference in Ogun State, Governor Ben Gadane, we have Ogroma, meaning Ogun State Road Maintenance Agency, doing bridges, doing roads. We have similar things at the level of the local government. For instance, one of our friends was the chairman of the local government. He had something called Adu-Odota Ogroma, equivalent at the level of Adu-Odota. And that was the one that was able to tar and maintain roads at the level of the local governments and communities. Those are the kind of things that is done. I need to bring
Mr. Adenusi in. I need to bring Mr. Adenusi in. Mr. Adenusi, Professor Oke has made a suggestion that there should be more PPs, private partnerships with government to fix or to give us new infrastructure. To your mind, is this a doable option?
Thank you very much, my sister Lero, and good morning, Prof. Of a truth, all over the world, private partnership is growing. True, there is no country in the world that has the resources to do it all alone by government. Several roads in America, you may not even know that there privately funded, but the roads are there. You just pay toll and you're going. So, but the critical thing is that there are choices. For every private road that is tolled, there are choices for those that cannot afford the tolling expenses. So, of a truth, yes, that's actually the way the world has gone. Private people are involved in all sectors, not just roads alone, rail. I mean, that's why the airlines of the world are not all owned by governments. They are privately, majority of them are privately owned. So it's the same thing with the roads. Across the globe now, truly, private partnership is coming in. But one thing that we must do is, if we are copying, we must copy correctly. That is, there must be alternative, viable alternative, not disabled alternatives.
You know, one of the things that I hear, you know, looking at the numbers, Mr. Adenusi, when Alera was opening, she said the total length of roads in the country is about 200,000 kilometers. 34,000 of them belong to the federal government, and the rest are owned by states and local governments. So local governments have 66% of the roads in Nigeria, and the states have 16%. Is that the reason why our roads are as deplorable as they are? I ask because we all know the challenges that the local government level of administration, that tier of government has had in Nigeria over the years. We also know the initiative of the federal government in ensuring that they get their due as and when, so that they can do all the things that they are expected to do according to the Constitution. Many people don't even know that local governments have a responsibility to maintain roads as well. So is that a challenge for you? Even though, yes, I mean, everyone would agree with you that governments alone cannot champion their infrastructure needs. But is that a significant thing for you in the infrastructure challenge or deficit that we have?
Yeah, thank you very much, Aya. You see, unfortunately, we don't have local governments.
But we do have local governments, Mr. Dennis. Oh, dear. I think the network is playing a fast one. I'm sure we'll get him back. Well, Mr. Begabran, Prof, you may want to please take that on. Is that the reason why we are having the kind of infrastructure deficit we have? 66% of roads in the country are owned or championed by local government administrations. I would have thought that the flip side is the reality.
Yeah, well, you see, deliberately we destroy the local government cadre, which is the closest to the people. And if, from the statistics you gave, they have 66%. There is nothing that says a local government cannot champion PPP. And when they do it, they will do it the way according to global best practices. The states will do theirs, the federal will do theirs. But today what we have, which is part of the problem, is that somebody sits at the state, he assumes that he's the lord of the manor, and he takes over the responsibility of the local government, thereby crippling that arm of government, and the benefit that would have accrued to the people, they are denied. So if truly we want to see things change, the current move by the president should all be embraced. The law is there, it's constitutional that there is a local government, and they must be allowed. Look, most governors in the states, most state governors have violated the constitution, and they deserve to be penalized for so doing. So, what do you call them? Sanitary inspectors they are not at state level. The local government should be responsible for sanitation. And so today you see everywhere gutters are not flowing, dirt everywhere.
We'll come back to you, Mr. Adenusi Patrick. We'll come back to you shortly. Well, Prof, I'm sure you have a thing or two to say about that as well. Once I saw a document that talked about 56,000 abandoned structures all over the country. I wish we had the Institute of Project Managers here in the studio to speak to this as well. So the question now is, particularly about roads, I mean, talking along the line of what happened in Lagos, where the governor made a statement that erosion has made hollow the underpass of the bridge. And many of us didn't even know whether it was collapsing gradually or not. We didn't know. And of course, if anyone knew that was it, I'm pretty sure nobody would. We would adjust by ourselves, not even knowing.
Would use it.
We would just adjust by ourselves. But maybe the government didn't just want to pass on unnecessary panic and, did all of that. One of the challenges I've had over time, and I always try to bring up whenever the opportunity arises, is that of infrastructure maintenance. Sustainability of those infrastructure over time. Maybe I would ask it this way. Maintenance is one of the challenges. What are the challenges that you have seen that's crippled our infrastructure development direction?
Thank you, Ayo. So many challenges. I mean, obviously, we'll travel widely across continents and we see things differently. Compared to what happens at home in Nigeria. We know as a country, we're doing our bit. I mean, not that we're doing our bit, and I must say that because we just need to keep improving on that. We never had infrastructure concession regulatory agency before, commission before. Now we have the states are doing it. We have tax for road kind of swaps, the Dangotes of Jesus and the Boas. I mean, those are the kind of things that ought to have been in place. Talking about the challenges, a number of the challenges. Now, we thought strictly or seriously about the kind of technology with which those roads and bridges and flyovers are constructed. Of course, technologies keep changing globally. I've heard of collapsible bridges even in Toronto. There was a day we saw a kind of flyover there. Months later, they said they moved the flyover to another end. I don't know the way they do. I'm not an engineer, I'm a lawyer, but we know that the way bridges are constructed now with slabs, that they are collapsible, that they are transferable, they can move it. That's why, in terms of modern infrastructure with and artificial intelligence and your kind of remote sensing thing that will have made it possible for you to locate your bridge or flyover or road in a place where there are no serious environmental challenges like erosion and the rest. That is one. Two, costing. I'm sure you and Alero will agree with me that, to me, most of our rules are slightly on the high side in terms of the mathematics, in terms of the pricing. A kilometer of road should cost X amount of money in Nigeria compared to other countries. I'm not too comfortable with that. We need to go and look at the humongous amount of money that states, sometimes federal government, spend to construct these roads. Then the maintenance culture is not there. And that's not only about the federal government. It's not the federal government that is dredging sand on those bridges, around those bridges and flyovers. Look at some flyovers. Some Nigerians will go there and make it their private toilets. Look at some flyovers. Some people will make it a dump of their waste, of the solid waste, all these disused plastics and the rest. You look at some flyovers, some people are doing all kinds of, some flyovers are constructed and the medians are created, and you see some Nigerians now cutting off the metals. Some now, they have made an attempt to use concrete. Nigerians are also peeling off the concrete to remove the metals. I mean, you see that on Lagos bridges everywhere. So when we talk about these challenges, we talk about the side of the government, the side of responsible citizenship that we ought to have in place, which we are not having. I mean, you don't get to see this kind of stuff elsewhere. You know, you have a beautiful flyovers, you have pedestrian bridge, and Nigerians are crossing beneath the flyover bridge. You see the divider on Lagos Ikorodu Road with a kind of a gate, a net gate kind of thing. Nigerians are destroying the gate to pass through to cross to the other side on the highway, even under the pedestrian bridges. I mean, you see that even in Baja. You know, the way Nigerians tend to deplete their infrastructure is not okay. So when we talk of responsible leadership, we must also emphasize responsible followership. Because those assets are not for a particular governor, or a particular president, or a minister. They are Nigerian assets. They are my asset, our asset, and their asset. So we have social responsibility as Nigerian citizens to put our infrastructure to use in a decent manner, the way we want it to be. So
Professor,
that's not government.
Professor,
so as a
one moment, please. Professor, one moment. Please, I need you to cut the citizens some slack. When the leadership has impoverished the people so much that they have to go and remove metal from bridges to be able to be able to get food to eat. I mean, just don't blame the citizens. They are exactly where the leadership has put them.
Sorry, I'm not
poverty.
with you on that. I'm not with you on that because we saw even the craziness that happened in Abuja when some people are removing planks,
manhole covers,
to cover drainages, and people are going to fall into it. I mean, you know, that's not how to make a living, please. Poverty is, some of the people doing this thing are actually not poor. They're just reckless Nigerians. I mean, you say I like to also give citizens some slaps. I'm a Nigerian too. I'm not excluding myself. In as much as we want to advocate for responsible leadership, we must also advocate responsible followership. You must not collect money to go and perform your constitutional duties to vote a responsible leader. When you are demanding bribe to go and vote, don't you know the leader that you want to vote, you have to look for money somewhere to invest and perhaps give you the peanut you are asking for to get in there and recoup his investment with yield. So we need to start to address responsible followership, and that's one thing I've been doing of late. So all the infrastructure, they're supposed to last some 30, 40 years, yes. But go and look at what Nigerians are doing in terms of bringing down the infrastructure that is meant to serve them. And I'm not trying to play to the gallery here. I can mention examples all over. In Lagos, in Kaduna, in Bayelsa, all over. Not only in terms of bridges and flyovers, health infrastructure, so many things. So poverty should not push us to do that because we'll be undermining ourselves as a people. If we are responsible as citizens, that's when we can call our leaders to account. That's when we can challenge our leaders to be responsible. When you put infrastructure there, no matter how cheap, no matter how expensive, if you don't have citizens who own the infrastructure, who demonstrate a sense of ownership that this is our own, then you're not going to have something that will serve the masses. It's not supposed to serve the leader. It's supposed to serve the people. And that's my grouse with our additional disposition as a people. It's not only in Lagos, it's everywhere. It's a Nigerian thing that we must get done away with. That's what I'm advocating. And I'm inclusive, myself inclusive now.
You know, there's something Prof mentioned just now, Mr. Patrick. He mentioned maintenance. And I think at one point I did this, I ask the question of a senior government official at the federal level. You have built this infrastructure and all of that. What is the maintenance plan? It was rather dismissive, in my opinion, the response that I got. The response sounded something like, well, our job is to build it. We don't know what we can do. You know, we can't do anything after we leave office. And this was years ago. I was a little heartbroken because what I was expecting to hear was something like, hey, okay, so this is a challenge that we have on our hands. This agency of government is there, that agency of government is there. FEMA, for instance, is there. I'm wondering, don't they have the capacity to sustain these infrastructure? Don't they? It's heartbreaking to hear people say the most durable infrastructure Nigeria has built, most of them are either in the First Republic or built by the military. It's a little heartbreaking for me. We've done 20-something years in our democracy right now, and what's gone wrong with our maintenance culture?
Yeah, thank you, Ayo. Generally, we have very poor maintenance culture, even as individuals. We can afford to spend a fortune to acquire an asset, but during the acquisition, we do very minimal researches as regards maintenance. The truth is that the life of that equipment or infrastructure is actually dependent on two major things: one, usage, and the second is maintenance. The secret of impact is continuity. What we have, someone comes in as either a minister, a local government chairman, or any public office that they are given. They domesticate their job to themselves. Ideally, there should be a blueprint that everybody is following, just like every pilot goes on the flight path. The sailor does the same thing, and the one that is driving Lagos to Ibadan does not get to Shagam and veer to the right, facing Benin, thinking he will get to Ibadan. So you still follow the path. So it's unfortunate that we are not following the blueprint, if we have, as regard maintenance. And sadly, when they are not maintained, it degrades faster than it should have been. So like Prof said, the lifespan of that infrastructure is between 40 and 80 years respectively. But when it is not maintained, it's the same thing with our health. We don't do as much as we should do as maintaining our health, and then you suddenly see somebody who is 45 looking like 78. And one of the way out is for us to have a viable and active reorientation organ. Like Prof said, yes, the citizens, we cannot exempt them. The only reason we can cut them a slack, like Sister Lero said, is the fact that the things they see, a mosquito has eaten 10 billion. And so the man thinks that, oh, if a mosquito can eat that volume of money, I should be able to help myself with that drainage cover, forgetting the fact that they have endangered everyone, including themselves. So a viable and well-structured, organized national orientation agency, we do that. Many years ago, there was this slogan on Federal Radio Corporation of Nigeria. It says, Nigeria na my country, I must do better for her. Everyone that hears it, even in your subconscious, when you are resting, it will just come back. Nigeria na my country, I must do better for her. Today, we don't hear that. So it's not the best. That is not to encourage them to keep destroying the infrastructure and stealing them. When they are caught, we have not made a scapegoat of any. The person that is actually stealing it is poor, but the company that is buying it, they know what they are buying. They know that metal that has just been brought was stolen, but they bought it. So how many of such companies have we management have we apprehended and prosecuted? So for as long as we keep glossing over it, pushing it under the carpet, the abuse.
We've lost Mr. Adenusi again. Now, Prof, let's quickly move to power. Almost every part of our lives now is dependent on power. You need to charge your phone, you need to watch TV. Everything is dependent on power. Are you seeing enough being invested in the power infrastructure in Nigeria, seeing as our lives depend on it?
Well, thank you very much for that question. There can never be enough in terms of power investment. There can never be enough. And when we talk of power, which aspect of power? There are so many divisions or aspects of power. You're talking of
you're a power lawyer. I forgot.
But the reality now is that an average Nigerian is a generating and distribution company now, because increasingly we've seen a trend which is predicted, long predicted, that Nigerians are going to be going off the grid. That is happening now because Nigerians, an average Nigerian, I mean, the big rich people like Alero, which I know living in the Via and the Koi people, will have solar. They will have humongous batteries called inverter that can serve 24 hours, where the people like us in Union, like the teachers, will be struggling. So Nigerians are going off the national grid, essentially because it's not that reliable. Another good development is that after about close to 2 decades of advocating decentralized electricity framework, that is to bring it down. We're talking of roads now. In the past, I thought we had a regime that says only federal government can give us power. Similar to saying only federal government can construct roads. So we just said, no, this is not making sense. So we won that battle. Now states are now doing what federal government could do in the power sector. And we are going through a regime where a state may be on 24-hour access, and another state may be in darkness. So that makes respective states to be competitive. The states are not supposed to be digging their hands in their pocket to invest in the power sector because it's hugely expensive. They're supposed to be attracting private sector, just the way we're talking about for roads. They're supposed to be doing everything, putting their house in order to make their states bankable so that investors can come and invest in their respective states. We're encouraging the states, of course, to have, unlike what we have at the federal government, to have a regulator that can bite effective regulation. Once you hands off, like the federal government did in the power sector, meaning it's privatized, the only thing the government can do to help Nigerians is to bring on board a regulator that is independent, firm, and strict. A knowledge-based regulation that will whip the players in line to do what is right. A regulator that will make it possible for the entities to make money, while Nigerians also will benefit from a sustainable power sector. That's about to happen because we've seen the body language of the current administration shows that things are going to happen. And this government signed the Electricity Act 2023 in June. I mean, almost hitting the ground running upon getting into power. Of course, that's because of the background of the president who had experimented something like that in Lagos when he was governor. So we're seeing things, states are having now exclusion from the federal regulations to set up their own regulatory framework, and some states are setting up infrastructure to be able to attract investors. We can never have enough money. So we free up the state, the space for state now to attract their investment in their respective power sectors. We're also encouraging 774 local governments in Nigeria, just as we have in the case of infrastructure, Trunk A, Trunk B, Trunk C rules. State, local government, as Adelus and others, you said that state also have responsibilities in terms of roads. Local government have responsibilities in terms of roads. So states should also encourage their respective local government to start to do small-scale power infrastructure, mini grids. all these biomass kind of thing to renewables. So with that, we're going to have a kind of energy mix that will be sustainable at the end of the day. But seeing we will be having enough money from the federal government in the power sector, the answer is no. I'm even advocating. I mean, people say I shouldn't even try that. Me, I'm advocating that since Nigerian government has privatized the power sector, the only business of the government is to bring on board effective industrial regulation through NRC. States should also replicate the same thing, effective regulation that is sustainable at their respective state level. Federal government should now start to pull back their investment in the power sector because it's privatized. So how can we be spending much more in a substantially privatized power sector? Federal government will strategically intervene in certain areas, but not to be spending humongous amount of money on the power sector. So that state will hold the process and step forward to really make things happen in their respective states in terms of the power sector. That's the only way we can have it sorted, because we can never have enough power in the country, and the deficit of electricity in Nigeria is in the region of about 50,000 megawatts, so to speak. If you must have it abundantly, and once you have stable electricity, the industry are going to pick up, especially the entrepreneur.
Interesting that you talked about the power deficit, electricity deficit, and coming at a time where, as Alera asked, she asked about infrastructure in power supply. I would expand it, Prof, to infrastructure in energy supply, because there are options, other options, to it. But let me take this to, Mr. Patrick. I saw a video recently, and you may have seen it as well. And you may want to, first of all, confirm it if it is true that China or some country in Asia has come up with a technology that converts the energy you dispense on the roads into electricity. Mm-hmm. Is that correct?
Correct.
Interesting. Now, we are 140 million people in Nigeria, so I imagine that, that kind of infrastructure is deployed at Oshodi, at Ujuelegba, at Okari.
CMS.
At CMS.
Okari. Idumota.
Okay, so I'm trying to marry transport infrastructure with energy supply now, because this conversation we're having, it underscores the fact that Nigeria's low infrastructure stock is most manifest in transport, especially roads and bridges. So how much difference will it make? I also say that against the backdrop of what Mr. Fashola said in the past, that we need to modernize infrastructure. So a situation where we have not even maintained the, forgive my language, crude infrastructure that we have. How are we going to maintain the modernized ones? If this kind of technology, you just confirmed, is to be deployed in the country?
Yeah, well, thank you very much. You see, it's unfortunate that what we ought to do, we are not doing when we should do. I live in Singapore. Our electricity supply is generated from different sources. Mm-hmm. My brother's house in the United States of America, for example, he has solar panels installed on the roof of his house that generates electricity to the national grid. So we have different modes.
Say that again.
And different channels with which electricity can be generated. So the key thing is, are we ready? Number two is, are we serious about it? I saw a video yesterday of a Ghanaian making a joke of Nigeria as the so-called giant of Africa, and that one of the principal reasons many Nigerians are migrating into Ghana is the fact that they need electricity. It's something of national concern if supposed 200 million Nigerians. Unfortunately, everything we do, they are all guesswork. Everything. Look at how my internet is fluctuating. I do a lot of travels. I am right in the air 45,000 feet above the sea level. I am communicating. I am doing things. I am making payments. I am responding to emails without interruption. If there are minimal interruptions. Right now, even to do this meeting, it's fluctuating. The electricity in my house, it comes in 5 minutes, and 10 minutes later, they turn it off. After 5 minutes again, they turn it off. The electricity in my side is like the trafficator of a vehicle. So, but are we really serious? Do we really want to generate electricity? One, if we know the number of citizens that we are, then we can actually sit down and do the maths. We are assuming that we are 200 million. We are assuming that we are 220. We are assuming that we are 240. If for 200 million, you have 5,000 to distribute amongst them, then you don't have anything. Where countries that have less number of citizens have 45,000 megawatts. So the roads, like you said, for the pedestrians as we are walking, we can be generating. The generation is actually not the problem. The infrastructural deficiency is in the mindset of us as citizens. 80% of us don't think. That's where we need to actually do the infrastructural upgrade. Our mindset, our thinking.
Interesting. So let's begin a coast home, Prof. Where do we go from here? Do we have the policies? Do we have, over the past few weeks, when we discussed some issues on this program, between Alero and I, and the guests that come into the studio, they are talking about re-engineering the Nigerian mind, creating a new infrastructure in the Nigerian mind before you can create that infrastructure on the streets. How do we legislate that? How do we legislate attitude, Prof?
Okay, before I get to legislating attitude, let me just drop 1 point. What Mr. Adenusi said is quite true. As you also alluded to that we have options. We can generate energy from everything. Some generate their energy from forest, the bushing technologies. Some generate from everything. For the example, Monique, that I cited severally, they were generating essentially from waste, and at some point they had a shortfall, so they had to reduce the amount of money they were paying for waste collection. For instance, like 5 naira, you reduce it to 3, so they weren't still getting enough, so they were collecting waste for free. They weren't still getting enough waste to generate power. So they were not paying money for people to generate waste so that they can generate power. So that's in the angle of renewables. There's so many things we could do. Also, at the level of policy, I saw federal government now rolling out a policy to discourage importation of solar panels, which is laudable. We need to now scale up our local manpower to be able to manufacture sound, reliable, efficient solar panels, so that we can start to go, to speed up in the area of renewables. Talking about attitudes, we have the National Orientation Agency. There's no way you can legislate attitude. You can legislate attitude by criminalizing certain things. Those that are vandalizing, you will legislate. Those that are not spending the federal government or the budget for the infrastructure that is meant for, EFCC is there, ICPC is there. We can legislate attitude, but we cannot legislate behavior of Nigerians, unfortunately. And even, I didn't talk about infrastructure.
Prof, if you can hear me, what's the difference?
Hello?
Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
What's the difference between legislating attitude and legislating behavior? Because it is our attitude that will make us, attitude to anything that will make us behave accordingly, isn't it?
Attitude is your orientation. I mean, what you believe in. It's when you manifest it in a way that is otherwise illegal that becomes an offense.
Exactly.
For instance, if you are the type that likes to steal, then that's your problem. It's a psycho issue. You keep stealing, but when you now steal someone's property and you are caught, you are charged to court. That's when. So the fact that you have a tendency to do something is not an offense until you have manifested it.
Prof, we can legislate offenses.
so when you see attitude, you see we have infrastructure.
The reason I apologize. The reason I asked that question is because
don't cross the highway.
Yeah,
you have
exactly.
You are caught.
Exactly.
So if you have a pension additional disposition to do it, you do it, but when you are caught, that's when it becomes.
That's the thing, Prof. That's the thing, Prof. Do they ever get caught? Look at, okay, I apply the Lagos, the stretch of road towards the Otedola Bridge. Under the Secretariat Bridge, since the Ambode days, it has been an offense to cross the expressway, particularly under pedestrian bridges. It is clearly written there, 50,000 naira fine. Guess what? People cross over that particular notice.
Ayo, let me tell you this. When I was a student doing NYSC in a law firm in Lagos, I won't mention the name of the law firm. I worked with somebody who said I should go and research something. I researched a law in Lagos that outlaws trading on the highways, trading on the bridges. When you have small, if you have small, traffic like this, you see people saying buy pure water, buy Coke, buy this, buy that. Our bridges have been converted to supermarket of sort where you can shop and buy everything you want, including tires, including anything. You can buy food, you can buy snacks, you can buy clothes. You can buy anything. You can buy phones on our highways. But there is a law, actually, that prohibits trading on the roads, trading on flyovers in Lagos.
Maybe we now need to legislate.
Who's enforcing that?
So exactly. Maybe what we should not be legislating, we should legislate enforcement. I don't even know how we do that. Let's go home with this one.
No, the enforcement, Tayo. You see, the challenge we have, Nigeria is not lacking in terms of legislation. We have the laws. The laws are actually protected. Like somebody recently was sentenced to 3 months imprisonment. Somebody was calling me that, oh, what could they do? I said they wouldn't be able to do anything. The person was carrying dollars. The law says if it's more than $10,000, you declare. The person didn't declare. Didn't know that there were technologies now installed there that would track the amount of money you have. Of course, they pull him out. They realized he had $30,000. To cut short the long story, they arrested him, sent him to EFCC from the immigration people. EFCC arraigned him. They went to the High Court. High Court just said, oh, he pleaded guilty. High Court said we should forfeit 20,000 naira, which was the excess that he didn't declare, and sentenced him to 3 months imprisonment. And what would they do? They only are going to appeal. There's nothing. The judgment is done. So those are the kind of things. Until you go on the other side of the law and somebody effectuates the potency of the law against you, the laws are there. But some of these laws should be self-sustaining. Not all the laws are meant to take somebody.
And that's the point, really, Prof. That's the point.
If you follow the laws.
Just a second. We're out of time, Prof. So as interesting as this conversation is, we're out of time. But I think you hit it. It's the laws are there. It's now for them to be enforced. Your last words, Mr. Patrick.
Yeah, thank you very much. When you look at the, what do you call it, the people that are crossing in Alausa, the reason they will cross in Alausa right under the bridge or Ikorodu Road and all the others is the fact that when they were born, let's say they were born in Dokpemu, from pregnancy state their parents were carrying them to cross the road. When they grew up, as they were giving birth to and they were growing, they were also dashing across. So what I'm saying is, we have these infrastructures scattered around the places. Look at our roads. 99% of our roads don't have road marking, so we cannot enforce lane discipline. So first, government must take the citizens serious. They must prioritize the citizens to place value on the lives of the citizens. That, look, a Nigerian citizen's life is worth $5 million. And if you put a value on the life of a Nigerian citizen, you will not toy with it. A few days ago, there was that crazy traffic in Lagos.
We have to just leave it there. We've run completely out of time. You do not want to know what loss came out of that. That could have been arrested by one, counting the traffic, so they will know if they will block the road one side or the other. Number two, adequate and very conspicuous signage that will be installed by that construction site, and even before, that would have notified the citizens of potential closure of that road a month before that date. Thank you, Mr. Patrick Adenusi, Director, Safety Beyond Borders, who joined us virtually from Lekki, as well as Professor Yemi Oke, Senior Advocate of Nigeria, who joined us via Zoom from Leeds in the UK. Thank you very much, gentlemen. We wish you both all the best, and we do not wish the kind of traffic that was in Lagos on Wednesday upon you at any time.
Amen.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for staying with us. We'll be right back after this short break.